Welcome to another episode of PPL Pod.
Glad to be here.
So I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine getting that acceptance letter to a dream college in New York. You know, the big envelope, the whole thing.
The golden ticket.
Right. But then, and here's the crazy part, you essentially throw it in the trash. And you do that because a magazine just crowned you indie rock's greatest secret weapon.
Which is, that is a wild decision for an 18-year-old to make.
Totally wild. But welcome to our deep dive on Snail Mail. We are profiling Lindsey Jordan, who is this absolute musical prodigy. I mean, she went from playing to completely Yankee rooms at these awful, local restaurant shows when she was 15.
Yeah, the classic DIY struggle.
Right, to releasing critically acclaimed, genre-defining albums. We're talking Lush, Valentine, and of course her massive 2026 release, Ricochet.
And we are not just walking through a standard kid makes it big timeline today.
No, not at all.
What makes this deep dive essential for you listening is that it is fundamentally a survival story. It's a real examination of how a young artist protects her raw, uncompromising honesty in this industry.
Yeah, which is incredibly hard to do.
Oh, almost impossible.
Oh.
She's had to battle physical hurdles that literally threatened to silence her. And she had to navigate a music media machine that constantly tries to, impose its own expectations on her identity.
Right, they want to put her in a box.
Exactly. But she fiercely insists on letting the music speak for itself. She just completely drowns out all the noise surrounding it.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can really analyze her massive success, we kind of have to look at the unlikely environment that actually created her.
The origin story.
Right. We are starting in Ellicott City, Maryland. It's a suburb of Baltimore. And the parent dynamic here is just, it's so beautifully specific.
It really is.
Her mother owns a lingerie store, and her father works for a textbook publisher.
Which is such a unique mix right off the bat.
Right. And you have this Roman Catholic upbringing. She's playing youth hockey, she's playing guitar for her church and for her school's jazz bands. But the detail that, literally stops me in my tracks.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Is that she started playing guitar at the age of 5. And not just strumming along, she was taking rigorous classical lessons.
Yeah, that detail is the key to understanding everything she does later. You have to picture a 5-year-old learning classical guitar.
It's hard to even imagine the focus that takes.
Exactly. That means she is learning finger independence. She is learning voice leading. She is sitting there reading complex sheet music, and she is building this strict muscle memory long before she even knows what a power chord is.
Wow.
It is a foundation of just pure, rigorous discipline.
But, discipline alone doesn't necessarily make you a rock star. I like to think of this classical training as the concrete foundation of a skyscraper.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. It looks like a normal building on the outside. But structurally, it can withstand this massive rate without collapsing. Because that structural integrity is what allowed her to process her 2 major pop culture sparks.
The things that really set her off.
Yeah. So when she was 8, she saw Paramore on their Riot tour.
A huge moment for so many kids that age.
Oh, totally. And then she watched the 2003 movie Freaky Friday. And she openly admits that seeing that movie made her want to be a rocker chick.
It sounds like a funny, almost cliche origin story, right? But the mechanism there is vital.
How so?
Well, you have the raw, undeniable emotional urgency of pop-punk bands like Paramore, or even All Time Low, which she totally idolized as a preteen.
Right, very Maryland.
Exactly. But she is filtering that raw, aggressive emotion through the fingers of someone who understands classical composition and jazz chord progressions. She wasn't just, thrashing on a guitar in garage. She intimately knew the rules of music theory, which meant she knew exactly how to break them effectively to create tension in her songs.
Which makes me question the actual hustle of her early career, honestly.
What do you mean?
Because the narrative out there is that a preteen playing coffee shops just organically breaks into the notoriously gate-kept indie rock industry. She started writing her own songs in the 7th grade.
Right.
And by 2015, she's 15 years old, she forms Snail Mail with bassist Ryan Vieira and drummer Sean Durham. And they released this self-recorded EP called Stick.
Yep, the classic first step.
But I don't get the leap here. In October 2015, she plays the Unregistered Nurse Festival in Baltimore. She is sharing a bill with Sheer Mag, screaming females and priests.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah. How does a 15-year-old actually book that? Was someone managing her behind the scenes? Like, it just seems too fast.
That is a completely fair question, but I think it highlights how unique the Baltimore DIY scene really is.
Okay.
It isn't this corporate, gate-kept industry environment in the same way New York or LA might be. It's very community-driven.
So it's more about who sees you play.
Exactly. If you play enough coffee shops and local shows and you are undeniably good, the local promoters take notice. Unregistered Nurse was a staple of that scene. And you have to realize how intense bands like Screaming Females are live.
Oh, they are incredibly loud and technical.
Right. So for a 15-year-old to hold her own on that specific stage means her stage presence and her structural songwriting were already fully formed. It wasn't networking, you know. It was just an undeniable live performance.
And I guess it was undeniable enough that priests, who were also on that bill, immediately recruited her to their label, Sister Polygon Records.
What's fascinating here is the sheer velocity of her ascent from that single set. I mean, there were no industry plants smoothing the way.
Right.
There were no viral TikTok algorithms artificially boosting a single, because that wasn't really how it worked yet. After signing with Sister Polygon, she releases the Habit EP in 2016. And Pitchfork almost immediately names the opening track, Thinning, a Best New Track.
I want to pause on Thinning for a second, because that track is the perfect example of what you were talking about earlier.
With the theory.
Yeah. It sounds like this raw, urgent, teenage indie rock song. But when you listen closely, the chord progression is surprisingly sophisticated. It's that concrete foundation holding up the angst.
Precisely. It's deceptively simple, and that sophistication really snowballs. By September 2017, she signs with Matador Records.
Wow. Matador.
Yeah, for an artist in this specific microgenre, Matador is the absolute pinnacle. It is the label of pavement. You know, yo la tengo.
It's an institutional endorsement.
Exactly. She performs an NPR Tiny Desk concert, and then she drops her debut studio album, Lush, in June 2018 to just universal acclaim.
Which brings us back to that college acceptance letter we started with, because she formally skipped attending St. Joseph's College in Brooklyn right as Lush came out.
She chose the record over the classroom.
Right. But let's be realistic about the pressure she just walked into at that moment. When you are crowned the Indie Rock Rookie of the Year at 18, the industry machinery immediately expects a follow-up.
Oh, the pressure is immense.
How do you survive the sophomore slump when your entire brand is built on being this raw, unfiltered teenager? If she just makes Lush Part 2, the critics will say she hasn't grown at all.
Yeah, it is a structural trap that destroys countless young artists.
Yeah.
The pressure to recreate the magic of a debut without sounding derivative, it usually leads to these overproduced, soulless second albums.
We've seen it 100 times.
Right. But Lindsey Jordan's narrative shifts entirely here because she took control of the production mechanisms to actively evolve her sound.
Because Lush was very strictly defined sonically.
Yeah.
It was sparse, it was lo-fi, and heavily guitar-driven. Pretty much just guitar, bass, drums, and her voice.
Yeah, it was very strict back.
Yeah.
But for her 2021 sophomore album, Valentine, she completely refused to be boxed into that lo-fi corner.
She really expanded it.
She embraced a massive, rich sonic palette. We are talking about incorporating synthesizers, sweeping string sections, and complex samples.
Which is risky.
Very. But she didn't just add them as background noise. She integrated them into the emotional core of the songs. She actually called making Valentine the greatest challenge of my life thus far.
And we see that musical evolution bridged directly into her 2026 album, Ricochet.
Yes, absolutely.
With Ricochet, it feels like she finally synthesized the raw, sparse energy of Lush with the grand orchestral ambitions of Valentine.
It's a perfect middle ground.
Right. But underlying all of this sonic architecture is this absolute, uncompromising demand for vulnerability. I mean, she has stated that she has a really hard time writing from any place other than complete honesty within herself.
You definitely hear that honesty loudest when you look at the incredibly diverse influences she draws from to build these albums. I mean, she worships 90s indie icons.
Yeah, she's cited Liz Phair and Fiona Apple.
Exactly. And she even took actual guitar lessons from her favorite guitarist, Mary Timony.
Which is wild to me. Like, imagine calling up your absolute idol and just taking lessons to refine your picking technique.
Right. The confidence that takes.
She also constantly references Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth. She told Rolling Stone once that she still filters her artistic decisions by asking, would Kim Gordon think this was cool?
It's a great metric to have, But the picture gets significantly more complex when you look at the influences outside of 90s indie rock.
Yeah, the Lana Del Rey connection completely threw me when I was doing the research for this deep dive.
It's so unexpected, right?
Totally. She described hearing just a 30-second sample of Lana Del Rey's song Video Games on iTunes, remember those days, as her initiation into alternative music.
The old iTunes store preview.
Yes. She called it a spiritual experience. And when you analyze video games, it is this cinematic, melancholic, heavily orchestrated track. It is the polar opposite of a sweaty punk show in a basement.
It really is. And then you add the jazz influence on top of that.
Right.
She is a massive fan of the American jazz pianist Bill Evans, specifically his 1959 album, Everybody Digs Bill Evans.
Okay, how does jazz piano fit into indie rock?
Well, what she takes from Evans isn't just the complex chords. She focuses on the dynamic motion of his work.
The louds and softs.
Exactly. How he moves from the tension of a big band arrangement down to these incredibly quiet, heart-wrenching, isolated piano moments.
So how does an artist reconcile My Bloody Valentine's aggressive wall of sound distortion with the delicate, dynamic piano of Bill Evans? It seems impossible.
By recognizing that both rely on tension and release, it might seem contradictory on paper, but that intersection of aggression and sensitivity is the defining mechanism of Snail Mail. She has said herself that the place where aggression and sensitivity meet in the middle is really beautiful. Heavy distortion usually muddies complex jazz chords. It just turns them into noise.
Right, it just sounds like mud.
But her technical ability, going back to those classical lessons to blend murky 90s effects, pedals with unconventional jazz-like melodies without losing the clarity of the notes. It is incredibly rare.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because that obsession with precision we see in her jazz influences is exactly why she is so notoriously neurotic about her gear.
Oh, the guitars, yes.
She records with a vintage 1971 Gibson SG, but she absolutely refuses to take it on tour.
But you know, it's not just about it being precious or sentimental. There is a mechanical reality to touring with a 1971 Gibson.
Right. A vintage Gibson SG has a mahogany body, it has a set neck, and these old finicky truss rods.
It's fragile.
Very. When you take a guitar like that on the road, tossing it in and out of a van through different climates and humidity levels, the neck warps. It loses its intonation completely.
Which ruins the complex chords she's playing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She said setting it up in the studio was this massive ordeal, and she just loves it too much to risk it getting damaged on tour. It's actually the only vintage guitar she ever owned.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was her only one.
Yeah. So to protect her sound on the road, she opts for modern reliability. She tours with a Noventa Jazzmaster and a Rickenbacker 360 instead.
Which, honestly, is a perfect physical metaphor for how she protects herself as a person.
Oh, so.
Because success and the kind of raw, bleeding heart honesty her songwriting demands comes with a devastatingly steep physical and emotional cost.
Yeah. The physical toll of singing with that much raw emotion is staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, right as her masterpiece, Valentine, was set to tour in late 2021, she found massive polyps on her vocal cords.
And for a singer who belts and pushes her vocal folds to the limit night after night, polyps are a nightmare.
They really are.
They form from the friction of the vocal cords just rubbing together under immense strain. It's essentially a blister that calluses over.
And it required immediate surgery to prevent permanent damage to her voice. So she had to completely call off the tour just before it began, which meant total vocal rest.
Which is so tough.
Imagine the psychological toll of that for a second. You pour your entire heart, your soul, your identity into this massive, challenging record. The world is finally ready to hear it live, and your body literally breaks down and forces you into silence.
It's heartbreaking, and while she is battling the physical limitations of her own body, she is simultaneously battling the suffocating glare of the music media.
Yeah, and this is where I really struggle with how the industry treats young artists today.
Same.
Lindsey Jordan is a lesbian. She previously dated the actress Amanda Stenberg, and since 2022, she has been with Etta Friedman. And she openly acknowledges that coming out developed who she is as a person.
Of course.
But she has been fiercely vocal about hating how the media frames her because of it.
This raises an important question, though, about how we consume art, because the indie press often uses identity politics as a crutch, rather than doing the hard work of actual music criticism.
Right, it's easier to write about who she's dating than to analyze her chord voicings.
Exactly. She has explicitly stated how much she hates being constantly questioned in interviews about being a woman or being a lesbian or being young. She insists, rightly so, that none of those demographics have anything to do with her chord progressions or her studio arrangements.
It is infuriating. Critics and fans demand this complete honesty and vulnerability from young artists. They want the raw nerve in the lyrics. But the moment she steps off the stage, the media commodifies her identity.
They just want the checkboxes.
Right. They fixate on who she is dating or what her demographic checkboxes are, rather than analyzing her 10,000 hours of classical guitar practice.
Yeah.
It's like we want the tabloid gossip, not the genius.
It is a fundamental misunderstanding of what an artist is actually offering the public.
Yeah.
The honesty she promises is in the music, it is in the lyrics and the performance. It is not an all-access pass to dissect her private life. She has had to draw a very firm, aggressive line there to protect her sanity.
Which makes sense.
Especially when you factor in that she also battles obsessive-compulsive disorder. That adds an entirely different, very difficult internal layer of complexity to navigating a highly scrutinized public life.
But the truly impressive part to me is how she responds to these immense pressures.
She fights back.
Yeah. The physical setbacks, the invasive media glare, the internal battles with OCD, you would totally expect an artist to retreat, to just hide away. But her response is to expand her footprint.
That's the survival instinct.
In 2024, she relocated from New York City down to North Carolina, which gave her the breathing room she needed away from the industry epicenter. And creatively, she pushed even harder.
She basically stopped waiting for the industry to dictate the terms of her engagement and started building her own infrastructure.
Exactly. She curated her own hometown festival in Baltimore, calling it Snail Mail's Valentine Fest. She personally selected all the bands on the bill. She took the stage at Coachella in 2023.
A huge milestone.
And she even ventured into acting.
Right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, she took a role in the 2024 psychological horror drama.
I saw the TV glow.
Such a great movie.
Right.
She played a character named Tara and contributed this haunting Smashing Pumpkins cover to the soundtrack, which perfectly looped back to her 90s alternative influences we were talking about.
Full circle.
And then she synthesized all of that life experience into her third studio album, Ricochet, in 2026. She just refuses to stay in the box they built for her.
It is a real testament to an artist realizing that if you don't fiercely protect your own boundaries, the industry machinery will just consume you entirely.
So what does this all mean for you, listening to this deep dive?
Yeah, what's the big takeaway?
Well, when we look at the entire arc of Lindsey Jordan's career so far, you see an artist who built an empire on vulnerability. She writes from a place of uncompromising honesty, but she vehemently guards her personal life.
Just like the guitar.
Exactly. Just like she locks that prized 1971 Gibson SG in a case and refuses to subject it to the wear and tear of the road, she locks away her private self to keep it safe.
It really is the ultimate paradox of the modern artist. You have to build this impenetrable armor to protect the very vulnerability that makes your art worth listening to in the first place.
It definitely leaves you wondering about the future of music as a whole.
How do you mean?
Well, as the industry relies more and more on TikTok algorithms that essentially demand artists film their daily routines, perform their private traumas on camera, and overshare every single aspect of their lives just to get a stream. Is Lindsey Jordan part of a dying breed?
That is a terrifying thought.
Right. Can an artist in the 2030s actually survive by keeping their Gibson SG and their personal life firmly in a closed case? Or will the algorithmic machine eventually starve out anyone who refuses to give away all their secrets? Something to think about. Thanks for listening to People Pod. Keep tuning in for more stories worth knowing.